This conference will now be recorded.
Hey, all you crypto boomers. It is Bud and George and Paul back with you this week on March 10th after a crazy week in cryptos that took us on a pullback. And now, man, if you're watching the charts, you got to be happy with a lot of these. So before we get started, make sure you click the subscribe button and the bell to tell you when we're dropping new videos, and then share, like, all that kind of stuff. And we'll get started now. I'm going to go over to George and see what'd you think of this week, George.
Well, if anybody owned T Fuel, you have a big smile on your face. We did an interview with Dee from G Pool talking about Theta and T Fuel, and I'm just looking at the coin market cap chart right now, and it's going straight up. It is amazing to see what T Fuel is doing at this point. I love it.
Yeah, it has been an incredible week. I'm just trying to look at the price, what it was 1 week ago, around 10 cents, somewhere in that area, and it's at 21 as we're talking right now. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. If you got T Fuel, you're happy. Another one that you had mentioned was H bar, and that's another one that really took off this week.
Yeah.
I think H bar last week when we met was in that 10, 12 cent area too. And it's up in the 20 cent, 21 cent, 22 cents today high. So yeah, it's there's some movement going on. How about you, Bud? What was your takeaways from this past week?
Well, of course, I love the fact that you've mentioned H-bar, because I think we may have spoken that in a previous episode. We raised the idea of H-bar, and I was adding to my position. I've been adding all the way through this, these lows, and adding as well. And now look at it, it's starting to hit the 50 and broke up. So a long way to go, but it's nice to hold something that you get in quite low, and then you feel more comfortable with the volatility as it goes higher, because it's so far beyond your entry price. So yeah, it's good. It's been a good week.
Yeah, an incredible week. I had done a video, I think it was Friday, just kind of talking about the psychology and the people that are gloom and doom and coming out and saying they're selling, that things are going to fall and going to zero. And one of them was a guy that was selling all of his Theta. He sold it at $4, I think, and is waiting for a pullback. It's the same guy that sold his Litecoin at like $20, expecting it to pull back in the $10 range or less, and it never did. So unfortunately, I've had, several people ask me what I thought about, his advice, and others. There's another guy on there my sister sent me that is saying that Bitcoin's going to zero. And I checked him out, and I'm not going to say who it is because I'm not going to give him any airtime, but I checked him out, and he's been saying Bitcoin is a scam and been going to zero for months. And I went back, the last time I saw, or one of the times he said it last summer, if you would have simply invested in Bitcoin, one Bitcoin at that point, you would be up 5 times, 6 times your money right now. So, they're not doing anybody any favors. And if you don't just listen to us. We're not here to give any investment advice. We're not here to tell you what to do. But at the same time, if you're getting your advice from some person that heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend that either Bitcoin's going to zero or it's going to 2 million, then I believe personally that that's not a responsible way to get into a market. We've talked about how we've been trained and how we've been trained to look at markets. And I'm not saying that we don't fundamentally look at a market and go, okay, there's some fundamentals here that could move it. But typically fundamentals will move the market in the short term, but technical analysis will kind of give you an idea of where you're headed. And we can all be wrong. Let's just get that out there. Everybody in this space can be wrong. The guy that says it's going to zero, the guy that says it's going to 2 million, and the guy that says that Bitcoin's going to 65 or $70,000. They don't have to do anything that we say. But at the same time, I think it's responsible to make sure you're getting your information from the right people. So anyway, what are you guys' thoughts on that? Did I hit that
Can
on
I
the
add to
head?
that, Paul?
What's that?
Yeah. Let me add to that comment, because just yesterday I had a good friend who has emotionally been triggered by a piece of news about something that's absolutely going to be massive, and he wanted to know my opinion, and I said, I listen to the news, but I don't pay much attention when investing to the news. I really spend a lot of my time looking at the technical analysis, and he was quite confused. He was quite shocked. But what it made me realize is, when you read a piece of news that is talking about something that's going to be massive and spectacular, clearly you're getting in on an emotional high, and you have high expectations for that project. And when it goes against you, you feel the pain, and you're more likely to sell out at a loss. And so it was just interesting that it's all about the entry, and getting a really good entry price, and feeling emotionally strong as the thing is incredibly volatile, and hopefully moves up.
Yeah. Pull up since your screen is up, Bud, will you pull up a Bitcoin chart and go back to March of last year? I'm going to make an example of this because we had a fundamental crisis, or a fundamental move in the market because of a crisis, and that is, everybody knows what it is. But if we go to, I believe it was March 4th of 2020, there was a big dip.
Yeah. There we go, just around here.
Should be right in there. And so look at the drop off there compared to the left side of the chart. Don't look at the right side yet. Just go across and look at the chart as we approach that, and then the drop off. Okay, so fundamentally something happened. What was it? Well, there was news that came out, and we all know what it was, and it dropped through the floor, and there were people saying, this is over, we're done, sell. And then you scroll and you go to today, and we start following the right side of the chart, and what that was an incredible opportunity to get into a market where fundamentals caused it to move, but the technical side of it did not change, in the sense that it ultimately continued on up. And so whenever we hear, and listen, I would have loved to have known that was going to happen, so that I could have sold right there about 3 or 4 days beforehand, and then bought it back when it dropped down to the $4,000 range, and then rode it all up. Wouldn't we all love to trade the left side of the chart? It doesn't work that way, though. You can be a genius trader by looking at that chart and going, okay, here I would buy, there I would sell, here I would buy. And so many of these people on YouTube, that's how they suck you in. They tell you, here's what we did, or what, without any proof, or what we would do. Okay, you don't get that luxury. Just like right now with Bitcoin at 56,000, we've got our targets. I think Jay's even said what the targets were publicly for Bitcoin. We've got targets for everything, but that's for the Patreon group. But for Bitcoin, he's talking, somewhere in the 65, 70,000 range. Is that set in stone? Absolutely not. But that's what the chart is showing right now. Could the chart change? Of course it could. But what Bud's talking about, being a technical trader, is we're looking at volume, the RSI, the wave patterns, the Fibonacci's. All the things put together paint a better picture than a piece of news does. A piece of news may move the markets momentarily. And when I say momentarily, it could be a week, could be a month, or whatever, but in the long run, as long as you have an asset that is solid and you've done your homework, don't second guess your technical analysis. And if you guys have insiders, I don't, but if you guys got insiders that are 100% on the money every single time that can tell you, by the way, this news is going to come out and Bitcoin's going to drop to $1,000. Hey, if you feel like you need to trade that way, then you go right ahead. But this ain't what we do.
Actually, Paul, there's a really nice transition into what I was hoping we could talk about here. I do want to get some time to talk about the Wall Street bets, but
yes,
in an introduction to that, if we go back to, if you look on the screen here, what you were talking about, which is this big drop off here in March, what we know happens is we know that there's some kind of collusion between the big money, and this happens not just with Bitcoin, but in many different stocks, where the big money will get together and say, hey, on this particular time, we're going to release a particular piece of news that's going to be damaging, and then we're going to have a big sell-off, and then we're going to start collecting the fear, collecting the position on all the fear. And we know that happens time and time again, and that's why I wanted to start fleshing out the idea of this Wall Street bets and what this is doing. And I'm sure that many of the crypto boomers have maybe heard about this in the news, but would you like to spend some time talking about Wall Street bets now?
I would love to do that. Would you
absolutely.
do that?
I can't wait.
Just to add to your point, and one thing that comes to mind, and we've talked about it before, is Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan was known for bashing Bitcoin on the news. Bitcoin would drop, and he had a group of people buying those Bitcoin up. So, to me, that should be illegal. Number one, you're moving the market and then taking advantage of that move. But, that's another story. But you're right on the money, Bud, when you say that these markets, fundamentally, they can manipulate them for short periods of time.
Yes.
So as far as GameStop,
so
I've been excited all week to hear about this. So have at it. The floor is yours, Bud. Thank you.
Yeah, well, let's just do a recap then for the crypto boomers who may not have come across what's happening here. There is a very popular Reddit channel called Wall Street Bets. I've got it up here on the screen. You can see that. And this is extremely popular now. Look at that. We have 9.5 million, they call them degenerates, but subscribers. It's just really created a lot of buzz. And know that when something goes viral, just the crowd and the herd come towards it. And so what's been typically happening here, and what we believe to be happening here, and I'm sure that I think our coach has a different opinion about what's really going on behind the scenes, which may be different. But as far as we can tell, this is between David and Goliath, that story. This is between the popular Redditors that are really gathering and becoming an almighty whale based on their own group. And they're taking on the big positions in Wall Street. And the way they're doing that is they are coming together and buying. And we know that when you buy and sell, it's all about supply and demand. And what Wall Street are doing is they are borrowing stock from typically pension funds and other places. And then they use that to short a position. And they do that by getting together, and they do that with big money. So they short these positions, they drive the price down, they buy up the stock, they then make a big profit on the price falling. It feels very, very un-American, but that's what they're doing. And then they give back the stock and having these huge profits. And what we know that's be happening is that there's a group of people that want to stop this, and they want to stop this by having a real movement to buy, no matter what the news, no matter what the technical analysis, just buy, and push that demand up, up, up. And like anything, if demand is high, then the price goes up to compensate, and then that absolutely destroys those positions that are short, because what happens then is the shorters have to buy back the stock at a higher price and take the losses, or they're basically liquidated out. And so what we know is that there's a company that a lot of people love called GameStop, and the ticker here is GME, you can see on the screen. And in fact, it got so viral that they even took a billboard ad out in Madison Square Garden here in New York. And what they're doing is they're just continuing to buy, and the price of it is escalated, and it's really this group, Wall Street Bets, taking on Wall Street. And I think what I love about the story is it's what drove me to crypto, in that it's the small guy taking on the big, mighty, powerful Wall Street, which we've all come to dislike somewhat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does that sound?
No, that's exactly what we had talked about before off air, and that is that, in this case, it's really cool to watch David slay Goliath. And what's incredible to me, if you watch any media, especially mainstream, which I do not, but I get little snippets of some of the hypocritical or hypocrites talking. And the funny thing is almost to for every what am I trying to say? For every news channel out there, guess who the bad guy was in this? It was Wall Street Bets. It wasn't the big banks. It was Wall Street Bets, and how we need to stop them from doing this.
Yeah. And it was really fun to see the millionaires and billionaires crying and like,
Oh my God.
they're manipulating and they shouldn't allow this, and how they're all upset because their Wall Street Bets is getting into their game and ruining it for them, or I shouldn't say ruining it, but exposing it. And they're all mad because it's now being exposed, like so many other things in life. Things need to be more transparent than they've been in the past. And
Absolutely.
that's blockchain. That's cryptos. It's very transparent and you can't hide.
But
And
well, one of the things, George, I wanted to flesh out here is that over the many decades, what I think has been happening is there's been some very powerful forces, very powerful people who seem to know where the bubbles are going to be inflated. And if you have that information of where, so we know that the central banks have a printing press. Because they have this printing press, they know where they can direct the funds to. They know which assets they can inflate into a bubble. And so if you know where that is happening, then you just ride that wave. You've got that information. You know that it's a pretty sure bet. You're probably borrowing at rates that are far under what the retail public are borrowing from. And then you just follow those bubbles, and those bubbles are inflating all over, and you follow that. And so what this is almost like a kind of a fight against that, in that hey, we're the people. We know the power of the internet. We know something can go viral. We've seen what happened in Turkey and other places with the Arab Spring, when Facebook sort of initially came out. And so what I love is that there is someone, at least there's some force taking on this all powerful, mighty, class, these elites that seem to have this insider information and have two different rules.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's almost always the little guy that gets burned. When they have these events planned, and then all of a sudden their propaganda media starts spouting it, they're prepared to take your money. At that point, they're prepared for you to freak out or get euphoric, depending on which way they want it to go. And then if you buy into the propaganda, and if you are not trader savvy, technically taught, then you're gonna. And I've been victim to this. I'm not saying anything that hasn't happened to me. I've in the past, I have been victim to this. Thank God, in the past 3 years, I've gotten education from the Bitcoin Academy, and I've especially psychological education that has not only changed my trading, but changed my outlook on a whole bunch of things. But you know, if you're not prepared for that, then all you are is a windsock. And when they blow the wind, you move in that direction, and they take your money.
Yep. And hey, you know, one thing that you said, Paul, that that I have to bring up, and you said most of the time the little guy, and I would say all the time the little guy. Like when have the big boys really suffered? You know,
True.
we can count it maybe on half a hand, you know, and it depends on what it was, like Enron and some of the others where, you know, these were kind of known, and who knows what really went behind the scenes with selling short some airlines potentially. Um, and we as the people on Main Street are the ones that suffer. They never suffer up top. And when they're being dethroned a little bit, when they have to suffer a little bit like they make us suffer, they are just screaming bloody murder. And it's nice to see that they can feel some of that, and it's not just thrown on us.
Yeah, you
Well,
know,
George,
go ahead, bud.
George. Yeah, so George, it's confession time now because
I knew this was coming
I
out.
actually have. I'm sitting down here. I'm going to confess to you both now. I have been on the other side of this equation. I've spent a very nice career in the City of London, and I remember in the mid 90s that there were these demonstrations for. There was an anti-central bank, real big movement, and of course this is the power of the media, because I was all into reading the Financial Times, getting my news from mainstream media. Had no idea, you know, that there was alternative sources back then, and so we had these huge demonstrations, and you know, this big mob was kind of like, I think we called it the May Day riots as well, where they came through London, they stormed the derivatives trading block, and they were downstairs, you know, waving their fists, and I was up on the top floor throwing like fake, basically throwing money at them, and you know, completely dismissing them. And I was part of that kind of, you know, that mentality of what, well, certainly the City of London, it gives you this elitist feel that you are somewhat detached from Main Street. And it was only really that I've had this kind of journey myself of becoming more, I guess, more human, getting more appreciative of meditation and spiritual side, and becoming less obsessed with materialistic things. And I've made a complete transition now through crypto as well, which has helped me to I believe that I now can quite firmly say I'm Main Street, and I don't like the big boys. So I've been on both sides, and I can tell you that now they must be frightened, because there's a lot more of us now this time around than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing that they use to control, and that is social media and stuff, is the one thing that could be their downfall, because now everybody's connected. We don't have to get our news from Walter Cronkite, or that's kind of showing my age, isn't it?
This is crypto boomers, yeah.
Yeah, some
It
of
is.
these others, we don't have to get our news from them, and I prefer not to, because you know, I think I've seen videos, they're given talking points, and it's mostly propaganda to steer us as quote unquote sheep. I know we aren't, but the general populace to, or in a direction that benefits them. And when George was talking there a minute ago about the big boys and always being the ones to come out on top, and the little guys always getting screwed, if you remember, one of the most famous quotes, or one of the most famous things that they called the big boys, is too big to fail. So basically they set out the propaganda and the brainwashing that these banks that made bad loans, if they go under, then everybody goes down, and they're too big to let fail because it would hurt everybody. So we've got to pump in trillions of dollars to hold them up. And the problem is the way people look at the stimulus and sending money to these big institutions is that, oh, it's government money, that's the government's responsibility, when in fact it is not. Government does not have its own money. It's got our money.
Yep.
So every time they do that, they're dipping into your back pocket, they're dipping into your kids' back pocket, your grandkids' back pocket, and they're taking from them to give to the big boys. And so that's one of the reasons why I believe the Wall Street Bets group is so popular. They're almost a modern day Robin Hood, but they're doing it legally. They've just got a big group of people that are on social media that have decided, hey, you know what? In this case, we're going to go buy GME because these naked short sellers are trying to take people's money, and we're just going to go buy and hold it and hold the price up, make it go up, and wreck them. Basically, stop these people from stealing, these big, too big to fail entities from stealing from Main Street people. So,
well, and especially since they play by different rules than we have to play, and
right.
the rules that we have to play guarantee that we will fail each and every time, and the rules that they have to play. Have either of you gotten bailouts if you had some problems, from
No.
other people's money? I mean,
No.
it's like, why
Okay.
why don't they bail out everybody, at Main Street and not Wall Street? And the fear porn that they push out, the mainstream pushes out of, oh, if we don't, keep these businesses up, these banks in business, it's going to be horrible for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if that's true because they won't let it happen, and that maybe the garbage needs to be taken and thrown away so that we can get something new in place. And they keep the garbage going with our money, and it is never thrown out, and we're never going to clean house until it is. And maybe, maybe we'll see it in our lifetime. But the way things are going, I tend to doubt it, and it's
I know.
kind of sad to think that way. But like, how long can this go on, and how long can we just put up with it until there's just that flashpoint? And this is, kind of Wall Street Bets is kind of a start of that, where it's like, no more, you can't do that anymore. And policies have to change, and because Wall Street pays and funds the re-election campaigns of everybody in DC, that we're out of that loop. And they really don't care what we have to say because we're not giving them the money, but Wall Street certainly is. So who are they going to cater to? Not Main Street.
Well, here's the other part of that,
Yeah,
and I
but
don't know
yeah.
if you guys have seen it, but if anybody doubts this, go look at the stimulus package. The most recent one's $1.9 trillion. If you do the math, and I'm just doing it in my head, but I believe that should be around $5,000 per person. Okay. Well, it's like $1,900 is what they're giving out. So where's the other $3,000 going?
I think it's
Per
called the pork.
Yeah, right. And that's the whole
Wow.
point. If you believe that these politicians have your best interest in mind, especially when it comes to fiscal policy, you freaking go read the bills. It is asinine for us to think that these people that control our lives have our best interest in mind. It's unbelievable to me. And so anyway, going, off the rails a little bit, but that is why it's important for each one of us, especially the boomers, to take control and take responsibility for your future. And we're not talking about just investing, we're talking about creating wealth. Whether that means you have, $100,000 and you can invest $10,000 in crypto, you've seen the returns. $10,000 a month ago in T-Fuel is $46,000 today. Okay, so that's 1 month. That's 1 month. So anyway, and that's using technical analysis. All right, that's not using anything except what we've been taught over at the BitcoinAcademy.com and Crypto J and George over there. They've got a live stream tomorrow. And I would suggest, if you're interested in that, and if you're interested in not being a windsock and moving with the whims of people's opinion or people's dreams, hint, hint, or anything like that, then I suggest that you take control of what you are doing, learn how to at least have a rudimentary ability to look at a chart and determine whether or not that's a good investment to get into. We're not here to tell you what to do. Nobody told me what to do last month when I decided to do something in crypto. All right. Nobody told Bud and nobody told George. What we do is we learn, and we've learned how to fish. We don't expect anybody to give us a fish. And so anyway, with that, guys, you got any final comments on this video, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw in that, where there's been a lot of anti-Wall Street sentiment on this particular episode, which we feel, but also to remember that, maybe 90% of the people working there are just like us in a way. They just work in a job. It's very much, concentrated amongst, even the people I didn't see when I was in my time in the city. So yeah, just a very powerful group that like to keep out of the shadows or keep in the shadows.
And you know what,
so anyway,
Bud,
just to remember.
With that, I was told a long time ago, a fish doesn't know he's wet. And so, a lot of these people.
I've never heard that one, Paul.
Explain that one.
Well, a fish doesn't realize he's wet. We all know he's wet, but a fish don't know he's wet. And these people that are in the midst or in the belly of the beast may not even realize, and most of them don't, because I do believe most of them are good people that have the best interest of their clients. But the problem is that they don't know what they don't know. And that's kind of the problem with all of us, is we don't know what we don't know. And if all we do is just rely on others to tell us what we should do and shouldn't do, then we're no better really than a slave.
Yeah.
How about you, George? You got anything to wrap up with?
All I have to say is, I love that we're able to do this. I love that we're able to share our knowledge, what we've learned the last, how many years in crypto, and how many years before that in life. And I just have to say, thank you, Paul, thank you, Bud, for giving us a platform and me to spout a little bit now and then. And I'm just glad we're able to do this.
Yeah, I am too. You guys are great. I love this time that we get to chat, and so often before we even start, we talk for an hour before we even start the video. It's just nice to have like-minded friends that that are willing to, let's be honest, there's a lot of people that know this stuff, but they're not willing to put themselves out there. They're not willing to take the time from their schedule to share it with others. And thank God that Jay is one of the people that, with his wealth of knowledge over at the Bitcoin Academy, that he has decided to spend as much time as he does. It's incredible to me. And as much time as he does trying to help other people, because trust me, folks, he doesn't have to. He does not have to. The little bit of money that his that their George and Jay's Patreon is, you know, $100 a month or less right now. I think it is going to go up, but even still, trust me, it's not. It doesn't change his world. He does not need to
Yeah.
do this. Jay could decide to ride off in the sunset with his beautiful wife and go, I'm out, I'm done. I'm going to go enjoy, you know, life on a yacht or on an island or wherever, and not take the time that he takes doing it. So anyway, I think it's great that we get the opportunity to, and we've had the opportunity to create this Crypto Boomers channel, and you know, hopefully, even if we change the trajectory of one boomer out there, which I know we've already helped many, that you know, it's been worth it. And the
Oh,
bonus
Paul,
is I
can I
get
just
to
jump
talk
in?
to you. Yeah, absolutely.
Paul, you really triggered something there, which is why the crypto boomers need to get into crypto, because you know, for many years, you know, as you know, I worked in the city and whatever, and I can never remember a time when some whale or some extremely successful person gave back to the community, gave back to the people, gave back to, you know, and the employees of a bank or whatever it is. It was almost like, hey, I've got this piece of knowledge, I'm keeping this to myself, you know, I'm not going to tell you about that, you know, and that's why they need to get into crypto, because crypto, ever since day one, open, sharing platform, sharing knowledge, sharing insights, being respectful to one another, and that's why crypto boomers need to at least start to get into this, because it is a wonderful community.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you
And,
know, go ahead,
oh,
George.
and Paul, I was going to say, now I'm going to add one more because
I know.
you've opened the door. And you know, there's something that Jay put out yesterday, really kind of titled "No Breaks in Your Life," and
Fantastic.
what he put together and released, I, I would have paid $125 just for that,
Me
let
too.
alone, you know, the 77 that's currently for Patreon. And there were two people that I consulted with after that, and I said, hey, because I hadn't heard it, because I had a busy day, and I didn't hear it till that evening, late that evening. And both of them were like, that is probably one of the best pieces that Jay has put out. And it's what people have really needed to hear so that they can kind of own that, and they can it was really very comforting to me, and it gave me an opportunity to look, not just like it wasn't about trading, it was about me, it was about my life, it was about who I am and what I'm made of. And those are the kind of things that I really love about Jay. And as you said earlier, you don't know what you don't know. And I need people in my life to point out the things that I can't see, because I can't see them. And I need people to point them out and say, hey, you know, look at that little thing over there. Whoa, I never saw that. You know, thanks for pointing that out. And I'm going to have to look at that. That's what I need in my life. And that's really what Jay brings a lot to.
Yeah, don't we all? Don't we all? And as soon as we recognize that we start getting better. One of the quotes from yesterday that I texted it to him because I told him I just love that, bro. It is observe the masses and do the opposite. And that there is so much wisdom in that little bitty statement,
Yeah.
that and that's just a part of it. The talk was great, and I think it's over at the Bitcoin Academy YouTube channel as well.
Did he
I
put it
think
out?
he put that out there for everybody. Am I right there, George?
You know, I'm going to have to take a look and
Yes, I think you did. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Oh yeah,
yeah, it is on
I'll
YouTube.
finish.
Yeah.
I will finish with this. I've had a couple of people ask me, well, if Jay's so successful and all that, then why doesn't he do it for free? Well, number one, why should anybody do anything for free? Okay, that's the wrong mentality. If you got that mentality, then that's the very first thing you better change. Okay, because if you think somebody else should do something for you for free, then that's a problem with your mindset. Okay, but just as important to that is if you do not invest something into something, then it never ever will increase in value. So if you don't invest a little bit of money, and I think George just said it's $77 a month. If you don't invest a little bit of money, if this is what you want to do and you want to learn how to do this, if you're not willing to invest a month's worth of cable every month, cable TV, if you can't afford $77, shut your TV off. Because believe me, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of videos on here that you can watch instead of watching Oprah or, American Idol or The Voice or whatever you watch. So if you're, and I'm not bashing any of that, but if you're truly wanting to invest in yourself, in your abilities, in your education, in your psychology, then you need to spend a little money to do it. And anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because, this ain't a welfare state. So if you're wanting to make the millions of dollars that can be made in crypto, spend a little bit of money on yourself and learn how to do it. So anyway, I'm going to finish with that, guys. We could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Great talk. Thanks for the GameStop information, Bud. That was great. I really appreciate that. And until next week, don't forget the live stream over that Jay and George will do tomorrow morning. And always watch for any little bonus videos that we might put out. But until next week, keep on investing, but it's not just investing, it's creating wealth. And the one thing I will say, invest in yourself to learn how to create wealth. Have a good one, Boomers.